Alrighty, it's time to do the last review of Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, the finale of finales of this game's playthrough, and thoughts and everything, all done live. If you're new to the channel, definitely hit subscribe here on YouTube or on Twitch, if you're watching on Twitch as well. You can hit follow on Twitch if you want, since I know subscribe means two totally different things there. Click like if you want. I stream Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. We do playthroughs, then we do reviews. So this is the final review of this game. I've done the full playthrough all the way to the point of even catching Mewtwo, and there's still a ton left. So this game doesn't fully end here, but I feel like I've completed all the story, really, and, you know, most of everything that you'd want to experience is from that. So I'm going to leave my review to what I've experienced so far, and then the end game stuff of the shinies, and then the Pokemon Masters with their specific Pokemon and stuff. I'll probably do that offline, and maybe a little bit online. I'll probably do some shiny catching someday. Just check it out. I still like the game, you know, but I try and review as many games as I can. So this game, in the final review, the thoughts that pop into my head right now is, it was a ton of fun. It is a Pokemon game. It was one thing I was worried about with the change from the fact that you're not fighting to level your Pokemon, really. You know, it's like not the main thing you're doing, even though there are a ton of fights in this. You know, even though they took out the random spawn of fights, there are a ton of fights on the roads to get places. It still does have the kind of dungeon motif, the puzzle motif a little bit. Definitely not as hard as in some of the other Pokemon games. Those, I think, were more akin to a Legend of Zelda than this is, but it has it in it enough for it to be interesting. And the fights definitely do get harder, I would say, towards the last 10% of the game, where it's really starting to get a little bit more on, you really need to know your Pokemon. But it is a really fun game to spend your time with. Like, it's an enjoyable process. It doesn't feel like a hard mountain to climb. It feels like the climb is where you kind of want it to be. So taking that and everything, and even the story of, you know, being like the Pokemon trainer and then getting to the Champions League, and, you know, the whole journey of that was interesting, and becoming friends with Tukas. You know, Pokemon never really had too much story in their video games. You got that from the TV show. And then the video game was more of like an RPG of sorts. It was always different in the fact that you didn't have a full team of people like fighting at one time. You always had 1v1s, and then you started adding some 2v2s here and there, you know. So it never was like kind of like other RPGs where, let's say, you have to have a full team ready to go and all fighting at once and having a strategy of who's doing what turn, and having that complexity. You have complexity in this, in that there's all these different types of Pokemon, and, you know, learning what's good against what, and everything, and paying attention to maybe what Pokemon's standing next to a person, and just knowing the world. This is definitely like one of the best games to get if you have a child. You know, there's some weird parts in it where there's a kid talking about shorts and stuff and asking you about your shorts, and there's some other stuff where the wording is kind of odd, but other than that, I would say this is a perfect game to get for like kids and even grown-ups that have watched Pokemon, dig Pokemon. It still holds true to what a Pokemon game is, especially since it does still have a lot of fighting. You know, they're not popping up random, the fights, so you can't just walk around one spot and, you know, keep on having Pokemon fight, you know, come up and fighting them and then catching them. You know, you can walk around and catch Pokemon, makes it a little bit more easy, or, you know, you could then go around and, you know, journey the roads and fight all the different bosses. So you still have a little bit of the old Pokemon where you find all the bosses on the roads and everything, and you have all the Pokemon fights that you have to be used to, you know. And usually those Pokemon people in those areas will have the Pokemon of that area that they're fighting with. So you do kind of know what you should be pulling out depending on what area you're in. Like if you're in a cave, you're going to get a lot of rock-type Pokemon, you know, and people you're going to fight there are going to have a lot of that type of Pokemon. So, like, it is still similar to the older games in that. Where this game does fall short on is still the motion controls. They're dismal. The actual catching of Pokemon is I think it is falling short. I think it's something that they can fix. It is very hit and miss, so some days you're catching them easily, and other days it just seems like the ball's going in random directions and you can't catch them for anything. And sometimes some Pokemon just don't want to be caught. So it does kind of take away a little bit from the fact of, you know, the old day you'd be able to fight the Pokemon, you get it down to like close to death, and then it's easier to catch, you know, and then you'd get the stronger Pokeballs so you can kind of catch them sooner. So I was missing that a little bit. I think that would be kind of cool if they would give you that option when you run into a Pokemon, say, hey, fight it, and, you know, try and catch it the old school way. You know, maybe make it easier to catch those really, really hard Pokemon that are, you know, and I'm not, like, saying this because, like, oh, it's hard to catch them and it takes, like, 3 Pokeballs. Like, I mean, there's sometimes I'm using 10, 20 Pokeballs, using, like, almost all my berries and stuff, and just not catching Pokemon. I mean, if you watch my reviews, if you watch the playthroughs, there's once it took me almost, like, 30 minutes to catch, that Firebird, Moltres, you know, almost 30 minutes to catch it, used up all of my Ultra Balls. We're talking like 40, 50 Ultra Balls, 40, 50 Great Balls, and I didn't even count how many of the regular Pokeballs I ended up using. I ended up calling in the assistant person. You get a little assistant person that comes in, and I was just throwing Pokeballs, literally just doing this, throwing Pokeballs, because the Pokemon wasn't running away either. I used like all my berries on it, everything, and for no love of money. And then finally, after getting like an excellent throw, a good throw, I just got like a regular throw, and it caught the Pokemon with, I think, a regular ball also. So it's like that the catching of the Pokemon was hit and miss. And since it is a major part of the game, you know, it could be a little bit upsetting. But as you go through the game, I mean, you can own so many Pokeballs. Like, if we look at my inventory, this is the wrong one. It's the wrong one. But if we look at my inventory here, you know, that's not the right one either. Catching Pocket. There we go. So I've got 280 regular Pokeballs, 197 Ultra Balls, 112 Great Balls, and I used my Master Ball and catch it in Mewtwo, and then 49 Premier Balls, which are the same as Pokeballs. So, you know, you will have a ton. So, with the game's economy of fighting, you know, people, I think I have, like, how much money do I have on me? 19,000 now. So I spent it all before going into the Mewtwo Cave, because I was figuring I was going to, you know, if the Moltres cost me, like, you know, 40, 50 Ultra Balls, 40, 50 Great Balls, and countless regular balls, I was like, I'm going in there with, like, 200. I was ready for it to take an hour to catch the Mewtwo. You know, I was ready for it to take an hour. I was expecting the fight to be crazy hard, but I lucked out. I mean, people in the chat there, in the community, like Ice Wolf there, didn't luck out like I did, and he fought a much harder Mewtwo than I did. So I got lucky. Mewtwo wasn't healing like crazy in my fight, and I was kind of able to beat it in like 4 rounds, I think. Really got lucky. But then that's another thing to mention about the game. So why is it that someone who has Pokemon Eevee version of the game, you know, aside from jokingly saying, oh, Pikachu version is the best, you know, why is it someone who has the Eevee version of the game has a totally different fight against Pokemon than I do, you know? Then why have the Eevee version, you know? Like, oh, just because it's a cute Pokemon? It is adorable, you know, but, like, that's a shame. That's a shame. So the experience could change. And I'm sure, though, you know, if you have the Eevee version, you can still have a Pikachu. I used Pikachu in the fight, you know, and Thunderbolt did, like, 2/3 of Mewtwo's health. So, like, I did a Thunderbolt, took off, like, 2/3. Mewtwo, like, had attacked that turn, did some damage, and then, did okay damage on Pikachu. Then it healed the next turn after I did, like, tried to do another Thunderbolt or something. You know, so it only had healed once. It attacked once, didn't really do too much to me. And I was kind of able to just take it out easily, you know. So, that's unfortunate. You kind of want these experiences to be even, you know. So what can you do on that, really? What can you do on that? But it's a shame. And I was walking in there with much lower Pokemon than what I think Ice had started off with at that time. Who is now beastly powered up. His Pokemon, something hundred CP. And mine's only 4,300. But, so all this aside, there's different feelings between the versions of the game. And then there's just different feelings of every day you're playing the game. So there is oddities here. That's why I say I think this game is great for, like, children who probably, like very young children. We're talking, like, maybe, like, 4 to, like, 8 range. You know, that I don't think they're necessarily going to notice, really. They're going to be more focused on, like, other things. You know, I think that quite often they kind of get distracted. So I think that this game's perfect for that age range. And then the older and older you get after that, you kind of hit a point where you're going to hit a ceiling where I do think people will notice it. But since it's just generally laid back and fun and just a good time passer, you know, and you have something to work towards, something achievable to work towards. Catching all the Pokemon, catching the shiny Pokemon, trading with your friends, linking it to Pokemon Go, playing Pokemon Go out and about if that's your thing. You know, being able to send Pokemon from this to Go and Go to this, you know, is really cool. So there's a lot to the game, and I think it's, you know, at this point on the last day of playing it, I do not regret spending $60 on this game, you know. And I did spend full price on this. I tell everyone, I have the Gamers Club with Best Buy, so I get 20% off on physical copies there. It's a program that they don't have anymore, but I have it up until June. So sometimes a $60 game, I don't have to spend $60. But as someone who spent the $60 plus tax and everything, you know, I don't regret it. I feel I'm very happy in my purchase. You know, there's games that I felt very unhappy with my purchase, like We Happy Few, not worth $60. You know, Call of Cthulhu, not worth $60. You know, but I think that worthwhile game is it's got a good long play time to even the storyline. So you're gonna have something that is gonna be this thing you're gonna work towards achieving over time. And at the end of it, you still have a ton more to do. You can't go wrong with that. A nice little game for me to pick up here and there. Maybe catch a few Pokemon, do a thing, catch some shinies here and there. You know, just travel around. Maybe challenge more of the individual Pokemon trainers and, you know, do a thing with that. And, you know, still a bunch more to do. And that's outside of the main story. It took me 6 days of the streams, on average 5 to 7 hours of playtime. And here we are on the 6th day. And it took us about 2 hours to get here. So, that's not that bad. That's not that bad. It's not bad at all. So, that's my review. That's my final review of Pokemon. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I rated flapjacks and applesauce. If that rating don't matter. If you like Pokemon, get it. If you don't like Pokemon, I don't know what to tell you. You know? Maybe this isn't going to be the game because you don't like it. But if you like it, get it. I think it'll be worth it. Alright, leave a like, leave a comment if you watch on YouTube. If you watch on Twitch, leave a comment. If you want to see this live, we do playthroughs Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays on Twitch, where we do playthrough, and then we do a review like now. And if anyone wants to leave their review in the chat, it will pop up on the screen there live. So if you want to, do all that stuff. Now I'm going to go and play another game. Golly gosh. Bye-bye, bye-bye.